Good morning. My name is James Little from Mass Spec Interpretation Services. Today I would like to share with you some information on converting NIST user libraries to a Wiley user library format. This is part of a series of training videos on using the Wiley KnowItAll software, which can be found on my personal website. The conversion is performed with the lib2NIST utility program, which can be found in the program files for the NIST mass spectral installed software, as one can see here. I already have opened it here. So what we have to do is add our input libraries. So I'll add our input library. They're actually present in the MS Search folder. So I'll go find the one that I have called JL Test. It's a library of 5 spectra, and I'll open it. You select it. And what we need to do is to convert it to SDF file format. So just say convert, and it's converted it. Let's go look at that file to see what it looks like. So we'll go out and take a look at it. We can open that with a notepad, and you can see at the top it has the mole file, which is the structure for the compound. And then it has other meta fields in here that have comments, molecular weight, etc., and the mass spectrum. We go into the KnowItAll software and open up the process over here on the left that says Data, and open up MineIt Create Database. We then must create our library database so we can import our SDF file. So we say New Database. You have to give it a name, so we'll call it JLTEST, JL Test. This database abbreviation is the one it brings up when you do the search using your library, so it can be up to 7 letters, I think. So let's just call it JL Test. Then we have to decide where we will put the file. We're going to create on our local system. We'll browse for a location. I'm going to put it just in a temp folder on my desktop. You really need to put this somewhere that you can find it, so you can bring it into the Wiley KnowItAll software and do your search. And it's probably best that you not put it in the library or in the library folder with the Wiley libraries. You should put it somewhere else, because when you reinstall the software at some point it might destroy your libraries. So put it somewhere that you'll know where it is that you want to keep it. And we'll have to again create a file name here to go with it, and I'll just call it the same thing for consistency and say save. Now we have our empty database, so we need to import our SDF file. So we'll say File, Import, and then we have to go find it. It's actually in the MS Search folder, so you have to remember where it's at, and you have to remember the name, which was JL. So we'll go scroll for it till we find it here. And we go to jltest.sdf and say Open. And the one thing you want to make sure you click here is Add Implicit Hydrogens, so that your structures like your oxygens and nitrogens will show their hydrogens when they're displayed. So we'll do that, and we'll say Next. Now we have the SDF import window open, and what we're doing is trying to map the properties of our import library to those of the Wiley formatted library. If you go over here, you'll see the labels that they have already defined, and it's best if you can find one that corresponds either exactly or close to what you're trying to import. So the other thing to note is, if you look down here, you can see as you click through our fields, it gives you an example from the first 3 spectra what those fields might look like. So the other thing that you can do, if you have to, you can add a user property, but that should be as the last thing you do. You should try to find something that matches. So let's just cancel. We don't need to do that. And it also does a good job of suggesting things. So we'll type suggest all and see if it matches. So it did match comment. It found exact mass automatically. It found formula. ID it didn't find. I might have defined this one record ID. It might or might not have been in the list initially. And you don't necessarily have to map everything. That's actually the ID number from the NIST library and might not necessarily be useful to you in the Wiley library, but I'll go ahead and map it anyway. The INCHI key found itself. The mass spec peaks, as you'll see below, are the mass to charge, the intensity, and that's very important to get correctly. and you need to go find, it's called MS Peak List. So you need to really remember that. You've got to select that one to make it import the spectrum. The molecular weight, you can always type one letter. It doesn't do good when you type two. I'm looking for nominal molecular weight, so we'll see if we can find nominal mass. So we found that. We'll map that. The name, it found. The number of peaks, it found. And again, I don't know if the number of peaks was defined in their column or if I had defined it when I was using the software. And the number of peaks might or might not matter to the Wiley. It's somewhat important to the NIST. So we've got them all defined now. We need to check them one more time. So we've got comment. What it does sometimes, it'll think it is a numeric value, and comment is not. It just happened to find something that it thought was numeric about the comment. So we need to turn that off. You don't want that on. The exact mass, fine. Again, formula should not be a numeric value. You need to turn that off. If you don't do it, it'll cause a lot of problems. That looks okay. That looks okay. Name looks okay. Again, the name, it picked up this 5 in the name. We don't want that. Turn that off. And the number of peaks is fine. So everything looks pretty good now, so we should be able to just go ahead and say next. Wait till it finishes. And hit the finish key. Would you like to compact the database? Yes, I would. It makes it search a little quicker, and it makes it smaller and for storage. So let's say yes. These are the compaction parameters, and I usually leave them as the default. And there might be some reason you need to change them, but I'm not going to change them in my example. And now we have the library. And if you start looking at it, you can see that you have all the fields are filled out properly. So everything looks good. So we're good to use this library now. I want to check the library that I created to make sure it works. So to do that, I'll go back to the NIST program and go to Other Search. If you look on the bottom, one of the tabs here, and that allows me to search by ID number. And I will search this JL test library for the 1 through 5 entries. We'll search it, and they come up. So here's our first entry right here, is this 5,2-chloroethyl-2-methylpyridine. And what we'll do is we'll export that selected spectrum out as a text file. We'll call it JL test 1. And now, after we've exported it, we can go open it up in KnowItAll. So this time you need to be in Search It to bring in the spectrum. So I went up here to where the functions are in the program and selected Search It. Now I'll go and say File, Open Spectrum or Structure. And we'll open that file that we just exported. And we'll start a new search. Tab, so we just brought it in, so we've got it in a separate tab down here. What we need to do now is go find the library. So we'll go to User Select over here on the left. Here is what the normal libraries would be for the mass spec, the ones that come with the system listed here. But those are reference, show up under here. We need to get to the user right here on the left, click on User, and there it is. There's the one we created, JL Tests. So we'll just add it. So we've got it down here in the library selected for searching. But before I do that, I want to make sure all my search parameters are correct. So to get back to the higher level, I have to go click on Spectrum MS. Here's our spectrum. We imported that spectrum, and make sure that the setup is correct. It's a single component. It's a dot product, which is their similarity or identity type search. Didn't want to do an adaptive search in this case. And here are the advanced settings, and they all look reasonable. Nothing's changed since the last I've used it, so I'll just say OK to that. Now I can go and click the search button, and it searches the library. And you can see in the bottom of the table here, it's got a 100% hit quality index. It's a perfect match for the compound. So everything's working correctly. Just one final step just to make sure everything's okay. In conclusion, I hope you found this video on converting NIST user libraries to Wiley user libraries useful. This and other resources for using the KnowItAll mass spec software are available on my personal website. Good night.